1967 and the Gathering of the Tribes, the Human Be-In in Golden Gate Park was a liminal moment. And following that for about 8 years, up and down the west coast of North America, as far as Vancouver, I'm Canadian, so it was Vancouver, these be-ins happened every year, and they were very much like this, but totally unstructured. There was a small crew, and they worried about toilets and stuff, but mostly it was just getting together to get high and talk to one another. But, mescaline music and free-flowing experiment, I think we all want that in our lives. But very few festival environments have ever put down roots. Christiania was a squat. It was an intervention. But there is one real notable exception, and that is Thylejren in Denmark. And they went, and they partied, and they liked where they were, and they stayed. And they created a permanent party. At times it was a real low ebb, low serotonin, depressive party, but it rumbled on nonetheless, and it produced some remarkable people.
Hello.
Generations from party. So this is what we want, not only culture, but we want people. And this is Eileen Hendricks and Pil Nielsen. And they are children of Thylejren. And someday, if you listen to them, maybe your children will tell similar stories.
Thank you, Jordan. Thank you for being here. It is a real honor to talk to you today. This is Pil. I'm Ilene.
Hello.
We come from Thylejren, a very special place.
Yes.
This is our symbol.
Yes. It's a mix of the Danish flag and a syndicalistic anarchistic flag and a mushroom and a rainbow and magic. Thylejren, or the People's Lair, or the camp as we will refer to it as well, is a community with 75 grown-ups, plus animals and children. It is situated in Denmark, in the north of Jutland, in an area called Thy.
The place is 20 hectares and has now existed for 44 years. It started long before we were born, with the generation of our parents.
In the end of the 60s and in the beginning of the 70s, there was a love and freedom-hungry rebellion in Denmark, similar to other places in Europe and North America. And among other things, in this rebellion grew a form of association called the Nye Samfund, or the New Society. This group wanted to create a society with flat democracy, global awareness, communal property, farming together, and with an ecological balance between society and nature. It was people from this association who wanted to make a festival, and they were very inspired by the Woodstock Festival the previous year in the Summer of Love. And so they wanted to make a festival as a political manifestation and a cultural happening. So they did.
A man named Leo Kari had heard about the ideas of these people and offered them to sell his piece of land in Jutland. Leo Kari was a Spanish Civil War veteran and freedom fighter who incidentally had survived up till 1970 because his planned executions by the Germans in 1945 was cancelled because World War II was over. He saw that these people wanted to create something that matched his own anarchistic dream for the place, so he offered to sell his land for around 17,000 euros. And this was perfect, and so it went. The New Society bought the land in 1969, and with money from the festivals, the bank loan was paid off already after 3 years. Now the land was self-owned by the new society, and this would later become very beneficial for Thylejren in many legal issues were to come, and also differentiated from other cultural free spaces in Denmark.
Yes, but let's get back to 1970. So the festival began, and there was a special train hired from Copenhagen to Thy, filled with hippies coming to celebrate. And it was running from the 4th of June to the 15th of September, with over 20,000 participants and 100,000 visitors coming to look at the hippies. The people who came were idealists, hippies, dreamers, artists, musicians, activists, spiritual people, all kinds of creatures, and it all kind of melded together, like here on Boom. And they had some quite amazing parties those years. Many visions was in the air, and you could say that it was a kind of culmination of the hippie era in Denmark. And after a few years, some people, they fell in love with the counter culture and the way of living and the place and the nature. It is a very rough area in Denmark with a lot of wind, and the winters are extremely cold. And they decided to stay, so they began building huts and shelters where they could live throughout the winter. And for some it was extremely cold. But people wanted to live this simple way, away from materialism, close to nature and a community. And it felt so empowering to build your own house exactly how you wanted it to be, surviving through the winter, living in a collective where you could be yourself and refinding yourself.
The Summer Festival of 1970 started a momentum that made many other cultural and political manifestations flourish in the years to come. For example, such as the squatting of Christiania the year after. Also many other festivals in Denmark. And the founding of the Free Gymnasium was also planned in Thylejren. And this is also something which we see happen at Boom, because people share visions and counterculture, and people, they bring their experiences home and are inspired. In the end of the 70s and during the 80s, Thylejren changed. The festival stopped and Thylejren started to develop into a community. It was a mixed group, not all with the same idealistic and political drive as in the beginning of the 70s, and some of the collective spirit got challenged. There was in society a general dissolution and unemployment, and this also affected Thylejren. Due to Danish laws about land ownership, the new society started to receive day fines for illegal house building, which means that a fine for each day a house was not removed. And some houses were removed, but other houses would appear, and hereby the new society had built up a debt of 500,000 kroners, which is around 66,666 euros. Well, this involved an uncertainty for Thylejren.
Yes. As a kid, I remember growing up and grown-ups talking about the fear of the police coming and demolishing our houses with bulldozers. And also I remember how the local authorities would come to check out if they considered the place suitable for children to live there. This was one of the things that you felt disconnected you with the rest of society in those years, and could be very alienating for the place. But during these decades, there was a lot of legal hassle going on and a lot of negotiations to try and find a solution for the camp. And because for the people living there, it was an idealistic struggle, and they didn't want to leave. This was their home, and they didn't see themselves anywhere else. But for many of the locals in the local societies surrounding Thylejren, it was a different kind of story. they felt, many of them felt frightened and disturbed by the outcomers and their wild and simple and dirty way of living. It also has to be said that Thylejren is placed in an area in Denmark with a lot of intermission, and the class of values felt a lot in the starting of the community. But luckily, these things are kind of becoming more soft the late years. But for many years, the locals, they protested against the camp, and they wanted to put the place on a compulsory cell and rehouse the inhabitants. And also the local authorities didn't really like the place, so slowly Thylejren's existence became a political issue on highest level involving Supreme Court and several ministers.
Finally, in 1995, for the first time in Danish history, the national parliament passed something they called a special law, considering Thylejren as legal free space. Thylejren's existence could continue. Woohoo! But this special law included a compromise between the people in Thylejren and the state of Denmark. The people in Thylejren had to accept to be part of Danish law and exist under some legal regulations. Among the regulations of Thylejren are that there are a maximum of 75 people who can have their addresses in Thylejren, and that houses are not allowed to be built higher than 4 meters and no bigger than 65 square meters. The law approved Thylejren as social experiment, and every 5 years people from the local town hall and ministry come to check if the legal regulations are retained. So whereas Boom as festival is temporarily, Thylejren is permanent.
This is like one very important piece of art that we have in our main house in the common area. It's been there for many, many years, and it's kind of like a symbol of the spirit of the camp. But beside the regulations, the land is owned by the new society, the Nye Samfund. And other than that, the camp is governed by the people who live there. So internally, there are 3 rules, which are the most important rules, and that is no violence, no stealing, and no hard drugs. And with hard drugs is not marijuana. People are very happy for the green plant. And every month there is a common meeting where people discuss ongoing matters. Sometimes it takes forever to come to a solution, but happily most people are aware of this, so it's okay, but it's also very much like a family, so it can end up in a lot of yelling and screaming, and you know, some things are taken up many times, but that's a part of it. Another thing we have is neighbor right. Because we share this land, it is important for us to keep a good neighbor community. So that means that if you want to put your house somewhere, you need to get permission from the possible neighbor if you want to build your house within 50 meters distance from another person. And it's actually very, it's the root of respecting the space as well. We also have a communal fælleskasse. It's like a place where the communal money go to do projects together. And we also have a børnekasse, which is for the children. They have their own place where they can put money, so they can do things how they want to do it. And that's also another part of the camp, which is very important, that the children have something to say.
Furthermore, Thylejren has a few central institutions. Bixen, which is the local grocery store and ecological friendly shop. This functions as the social heart of Thylejren, and the meeting point. And during the summer, the common meetings are held in front of the Bixen. And this is these pictures show how this place developed through the years. There is also Swampen, which is, if you translate it, it means the mushroom. And this is the common area with a bar and kitchen. Recently, there is also Yggdrasil, the creativity house. And these places all function as social gathering points. At the moment, a lot of communal building is going on with common showers, laundry, and a big playing area for kids. And these are some of the recent developments in Thylejren. Another recent development is the newborn children. There are several newborn babies at this moment, and they give a lot of good atmosphere to the place and inspire the people with new energy and life.
Yes. Growing up in Thylejren, when people ask how it is to grow up there, I always say it's complicated. It's like a million different things, but like to break it down practically, I grew up in this house. It's a black pyramid with grass on the roof, no running water, a heating stove, and a toilet outside. And we were my mother and my brothers and a lot of animals, including a lot of insects. It was simple life, and the most of my childhood I used running around in the forest with all the other kids, being quite wild. Yeah, in a tribe with a lot of other children, and we had a lot to say and to do, and you were also considered as a part of the community, so people would listen to you if you had something to say. And also you felt that the grown-up was just as much your friend as your children, the children you were with, which I think is very healthy for children to feel included in society. Yeah, okay. Other than that, I can say that when I became a teenager, it was harder, both because life in the camp was hard, and the people who lived there had been experimenting with drugs and alcohol and all these kind of things, so suddenly people started to die. There was a period of 10 years where a lot of people died. And so you kind of get used to that as well, and I guess that's also a part of life. We float, and now there's a period of time where there's a lot of children born. So it's like it was kind of breaking down, and then it built itself up again. It's been a period of 44 years, so it's developing all the time, and I think that's something that is that you can say is a strong key for Thylejren, is that it is what the people in the camp is. So if there's a period with some people living there not having a lot of energy, the place don't have a lot of energy. But if there's like a time where people want to create and be creative and have children and stay together like it is now, then that's what's going to happen. And I think that's very beautiful, and it also shows the spaciousness that is, that you're allowed to be down in a period, and then you can come up again, and you're not judged just because you had 5 years where nobody really could talk to you. Yeah, so as a kid you also grow very tolerant in that community, because you get used to all kind of people, and a lot of different kind of people come through the place all the time, and yeah, like that. And yeah, we are now starting the 3rd generation of hippie children in the camp, and this is my nephew and my old mother. And also you can see that things change with the buildings. Like this was how it looked a few years ago, and now it looks like this. So it's developing. And also the house I grew up in, it doesn't exist anymore. It's been taken down, and now there's just forest. Yes.
I was born in the Netherlands and grew up in Amsterdam until the age of 11, where also the cultural free space Ruigoord was familiar to me. And my first encounter with Thylejren was during my childhood, during the summer holidays. We drove with my father's old bus to Thylejren, where we stayed in a teepee for about a month. This was a real adventure, and I especially remember from this time going to the beach or forest lake by horse wagon, and with a lot of children and happy singing and playing music, and a happy singing adults playing music. In the year 2000, my mother decided to move to Denmark, to Thylejren, and she realized, her plans, her dreams. I moved to Thylejren with her and my 2 younger twin brothers. I started in 6th grade and learned to speak Danish. The reason why we moved to Thylejren was because, like many others who lived there, my mother wanted down-to-earth living. She appreciated simplicity and freedom, and wanted her kids, me and my brothers, to grow up in the nature and away from unnecessarily consumerism. Between the fjord and the ocean, and with lots of green in the middle, as she says. She was also attracted to the cheap rent, which makes it easier to survive, and the possibility to design our house the way we wanted. The first 3 years we lived in this Mongolian yurt of 7 diameters, which could of course be a little bit hectic sometimes. And during these years we built the house we live in today. Inspired by the yurt, it has 6 edges and a roof window. And there are mussel shelves underneath the house, and it's isolated with hemp and heated by stove. And this stove is connected to a warmth system which keeps 3 radiators going, and also the shower. So in the winter we have hot water. As most houses in Thylejren, we don't have any flushing toilet. That our toilet consists of a small shed outside the house, similar to what we have here at Boom. We have never had any machine to boil, any electric machine to boil water, or a washing machine, and this simple living is very characteristic of Thylejren. But recently, modernity has also found its way to Thylejren.
Yes, there's like a split of generations. For instance, my mother, she still don't want running water in her house because she thinks it's unnecessary. But my brother, he insists on having a shower, a flushing toilet, and a washing machine. But of course, he tries to build it as friendly as possible to the environment. But it just shows that, yeah, we are generations and we want different things.
Well, each house is different, and I think that this reflects how Thylejren, as cultural free space and autonomous zone, offers the opportunity to create and be your own. It invites for openness, creativity, and diversity. And these are some of the core values for Thylejren, which through my experience, our experience, still very much are alive. The time in Thylejren is very in its own time. We call it Thylejren time. It's never within time. 1 hour can be 5 hours, and 1 o'clock can be 4 o'clock. And the mood, it can change. One moment, it can be happiness and joy, and the other moment, this can develop in something else. This happens because it's a small society and people meet each other on the way to the shop or everywhere. And people have different lifestyles and rhythms whereby these confrontations do happen. But I think that many children at a very young age learn to be tolerant and independent as well.
And also now we have a festival. It's not as big as Boom, of course. It is. This year was the biggest it's ever been since we started again, and it was around 2,000 people. but it's strong for the community, and it's very nice to invite guests in when you actually have a community and you want to share what you have with like-minded people. It's as you can see, it's not so big, but it's very cozy and nice, and
It's very good for integration as well, because people in Thylejren, they cooperate with each other and work together, but also with the local area around Thylejren, they local shops and also supporting bands, music. And when we went to school, sometimes there has been a lot of children, their parents disapprove our lifestyle and have never been there and don't even want to come there. And I think that this festival also invites people to try to see, if they are curious, how it is to they can have a look around.
Yeah.
And it's a celebration as well.
Yeah. So it's growing still, and it's a very nice place. You should come and check it out. We also have room for people to come and visit. Definitely.
Can always put a tent up.
Okay, yeah, and lately there's been some like environmental things in the area where it's also heated up the community again to work together for protecting the local environment and the nature, because there's been a lot of governmental shit going on. So that's also actually been good to have something to fight for again.
Thank you for listening.
So anyone have any questions?
There is one there.
Okay.
I was wondering, in the schools, what's the vision the teachers give to the children?
Oh, there's no school.
There are no schools.
No,
We
we
go
had
to the
to go to the local school.
Okay,
So
so
as
you
a part of integration.
you went to a school outside of your village.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
I am in awe at the presentation. Denmark, I love Denmark. Do you have rent?
Rent? Yes,
And do
there
you
is a rent for.
And do you have rent sharing? And how much do you distinguish the rent on the structures like this one and the ground itself? And by the way, how close are you to larger places? And how often do you go there?
The camp is situated pretty distant from
Isolated.
a lot of other places. So it's in the northwest of Jutland, in a kind of deserted area. So in some ways you could say that it is lying in an area by itself, but it is connected. Like the balloon company also visited us, and there was a tank meeting a few years ago, which is like a Nordic tribal rainbow gathering. But for the camp it is both, how can you say, it's like, it's good, but it's also hard because it's so diverse in the people, and it's important for these exchanges to happen, but it's challenging. I think it's very important that the people living there have so much to say about the structures themselves. Yeah, it's important that everyone that lives there have something to say. It's a small community. It's 75 people and children.
I was just wondering how much the community is kind of based on anarcho-syndicalist principles, and if you've kind of integrated that still today, or if it's kind of more of an ideology that was based back in the 70s or so.
Do you want to?
Yeah, well, the structure is actually quite flat, because the important solutions are discussed at the common meeting. So that is. Sorry. Yeah, people do work, but some people, they are also on benefit. But it's that's actually one of the prejudices against Thylejren.
But I mean, the thing about anarchism in Thylejren is that it's kind of like. I have this discussion with my mother many times, because it's a lot about responsibility and organizing as well, and that is not always so easy in this place, because it's often the same people taking responsibility and organizing. But it's not because they want, it's just because it falls in their hands. So that's, how can you say, it's kind of it's the challenge of the place is to spread out the work more.
Yeah,
And
everybody can do something,
Yeah.
create something. Yeah.
It's like Christiania, where it's like you can choose to be a part, and you can also choose to live in the other end of the camp and only come down to buy your groceries from the local shop and then go back in your little hut. It's okay, but and then you just don't have so much to say in the common decisions.
So my first question was going to be the website, so I can type it down, unless you guys are putting it on the screen afterwards. Oop. And then the second sort of follows what he was saying about, do you guys have jobs that you make money with? Obviously, you're all just doing jobs without money in mind. You're doing it for the community. Am I correct?
It's a mixed thing, I would say, because some people work in society and they make money for themselves. It's also very much this thing of being an individual. It's not like everyone is working for the collective, but there is like the people that work in the local shop, they get a little money, but it's so little, and also in the bar they get some money, and then there's
Art. People make art. They create things and they sell it, and then you buy it from each other. I think it's that life in Thylejren should not exclude life in society. I think we have to find some way to combine things and take the best of it all. Because when we are live in Copenhagen, we do bring things from this place with us.
yeah.
Thank you. That was a great talk, and I definitely would love to come and visit one day. I'm just wondering, you said there was a limit of 75 people, right? So what happens when there's new babies?
Oh, the children, they're free from that. Also, there's a rule that, for instance, we moved away to study for a while, but if we want to come back, we always have a place. We're allowed ahead in the line, actually, as children of the camp.
Yeah, so people who wants to move in, they come on a waiting list at the moment. Yes.
That doesn't mean that you can't visit.
No.
Yeah, everybody can visit.
So this session now is finished. Thank you very much.
Thank you.